Have you ever, like, thought about what would happen if Bond didn't get his immortality? Thank you to our final patrons, Strawbones, World 4765, Midnight Gem Lord, Chion, and Artgoon. And a very big thank you to our $25 patron, Alex Ice Rose. Now, we're having this breakdown / discussion on what would have happened if Bond never got his immortality. Please be sure and leave your own thoughts on what would happen in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a page down below. Use for result as $1, count 'em $1 nice videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? All Punts here, and the morbid thought crossed my mind, right? Because I'll admit, just due to the way that Fortnite is being structured and the fact that I do believe all the 7 deadly sins are going to be put on a t-shirt eventually, one way or another, my brain started thinking, we did have a guy who was literally anti-t-shirt. Like, Bond, for the longest time, for like probably 90% of the narrative, if not a little bit more, a little bit less, he was like un-t-shirtable. Unless you used the HB on him, but even then, no one whipped out the HB on him. For some reason, no one except for an angry late-night Meliodas whipped out the HB on him. So I thought, what if Bond didn't get his immortality? Like, hypothetically, what happens if Bond just doesn't get it? Like, say Elaine just drank it, and, like, she couldn't spit it into his mouth quick. That sounds so bad. But she couldn't spit it quick into his mouth. Like, she just spit it into his mouth, and then bada bing, bada boom, they both end up perishing because Bond can't drink it. Like, he already perished from, getting torn apart, and Elaine just kind of, like, wastes the elixir and kind of just falls around them. I was thinking about this. I was going to write a whole what if, and then I realized, like, everything just gets bad. Because Bond, despite being, like, only relevant power-wise for the very start of this series and the very end of the series, bro is very polarizing in the middle. He's pretty much nigh on, I wouldn't say nigh on useless, because he has his moments. He has his moments against Galland. He has his moments against all the 10 Commandments when he takes Melascula apart. He has his moments, but in terms of, like, overall combat utility, he's kind of weird. But, like, if you remove Bond from the series, which is essentially what you're doing there, you're essentially leaving it so that Bond perishes. If you have them both perish, no one stops the original demon from destroying, not the original demon, no one stops the red demon from destroying the entire Fairy King's Forest. The whole Fairy King's Forest is just GG. It literally gets off screen because it was already being torn apart. Bond literally had to fight that thing to the death, so nothing's saving it. So that red demon is just going to run around. And notably, that means that I don't even think season 1 can happen, because if the red demon lives, how is Henderson going to find the body? Like, if it just walks around and keeps living life, I don't know, maybe it would perish to someone else, but I think it needs to perish where it did, because it's highly unlikely that Hendrickson or Dreyfus, whoever you believe found the body, maybe it was a mind wipe Hendrickson who locked it down, or it was Dreyfus who went out of his way and said, hey, a demon? Hold on, let me go find this. And obviously by Dreyfus, I mean Fraudrin. But even still, if the body just perishes somewhere else, then we don't get the plot of season 1. We can't have the whole first generation plot, because it just can't happen without the red demon's blood. And even with the gray demon that was stored underneath the castle of Leonis, even still, that changes everything, because I don't think anyone would be compatible. Like, Hendrickson was luckily enough compatible through sheer chance, realistically. The fact that he was compatible with demonic blood at all was good. That we saw it's a rarity in of itself, so giving them higher level demonic blood would probably jack up all of season 1. Obviously, with no Bond, there literally is no 7 deadly sins. Both Elaine and Bond, 2 hypothetical sin candidates, are gone. There's nothing you can do with them now. So they're kind of just done. There's nothing you can really do. And the thing is, if you remove Bond, like say hypothetically we had the 6 deadly sins. We're just going to change the whole moniker of the series. The 6 deadly sins. Without Bond, yet Meliodas never leaves purgatory. The series ends. And, like, notably, the weird thing is you could technically make a lot of this series still work without it. Like, you could have Diane's introduction go just fine. You can have most of the past stuff go just fine. I mean, you wouldn't have Orlandi. Like, Orlandi is a thing that doesn't happen without Bond's infinite blood and stuff like that. But still, you wouldn't have modern Orlandi, but Orlandi would probably get defeated by one of the other sins. You could have all the pre-time skip sin stuff. Then you have beginning of the series sins. And I guess you just skip over Bond's arc. Boss State Dungeon never gets interfered with because no one would be captured there. So, like, a majority of it's fine. But once again, I don't think the opening arc can happen without the Red Demon dying where it was supposed to die. Unless you want to argue that Henriksen or Dreyfus could, like, find the body wherever it ends up. If it even dies. Like, it may just live. Like, it straight up may just live. If it knows to avoid Meliodas, which it should recognize its former prince and be like, whoa, and not doing that. And it stays away from any, like, giants or, like, what else could really harm it? I don't even think there's a fairy alive. If it stays away from King, too, then it should be entirely fine. So I don't even think the Red Demon may die. It may just leave. But let's give Hendrickson and Dreyfus the benefit of the doubt and say they somehow magically find the Red Demon body still. Or, like, they slay it themselves. Fraudrin pops out and is like, yeah! And then takes the Red Demon's blood so that can be a plot for Season 1, which seems unlikely. Let's say that. All of Season 1 could happen. I say a majority of Season 2 can happen. Obviously, you wouldn't have the journey with Jericho, and you wouldn't have the Gawain versus Bond fight, because Bond, wouldn't be alive. But, with that being the case, I don't think we get introduced to Escanor. Because there's no reason. I mean, hypothetically, Bond could get revived from the dead. Like, if that's the case, though, who would have the only person who would have lingering regrets, or no, he would come back, but he wouldn't be able to go anyone except for maybe his dad. But even then, he's not going to be powerful. He's not going to be powerful enough. If he runs into anybody, he gets one shot. And no one would have any connections to him, except for, hypothetically, Helene, who may also get revived, but Helene may not even get revived. Because if Bond is dead with her, and Bond may not even get revived, because they both die together. Sure, it's sad, but they should both go to the capital of the dead. So it's highly likely that they don't even appear. Like, they straight up don't appear in the modern plot. And that leaves Galland and Melascula unscathed. Escanor may not ever be rediscovered. Well, to be fair, I think they'll most likely hunt him. Actually, no, maybe not. Because the thing is, Escanor always wears the glasses throughout the day. The glasses were specifically knocked off of him by Galland when Galland slapped him on the back. So Escanor got no news, nothing at his sweet gluttony, like no one there. The only person who could hypothetically hunt him down if they really need him is Merlin. And it seems like they were actively searching for him. So maybe he's found, but he's going to be found later, which is definitely going to affect certain things. Like the whole Ten Commandments jump fest, that may be arguably able to go the same, because they probably would still appear to jump Meliodas. But once Meliodas perishes, comes back, we have all the post-resurrection stuff, and then he gets his soul sent to purgatory again, the series is over. We lose. Flat out, we lose. Because no one would be able to survive purgatory long enough to go get Mel back. And even if you were to give it the biggest, fattest, thickest, juiciest benefit of the doubt, and say that Wild, the goat himself, came in and decided, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to save this random guy. That's not going to happen. Purgatory is really, really big, and also he would have no context for Mel at all. And Mel wouldn't be able to communicate with him coherently. So the series is over. GG, the Demon King wins. Because the Demon King would get Mel's body, and then with no post-purg Bond, no one's going to be able to stall out the Demon King in Mel's body, and without post-purg, or no, not even, yeah, with no post-purg Bond, no one's going to be able to fight the Demon King in the real world. And Meliodas' wandering soul, or emotions, would still be just lost in the depths of purgatory, so the Demon King just wins. Because no one at the Demon King fight, or the DK Mel fight, except for post-purg Bond, was actually relevant. Because King was too low in energy to actually properly fight him. He could only barely defend against the storm, so King would get GG'd. Diana's fought her, so she would get GG'd. Merlin is fought her, so she would get... Okay, not fought her. Let me watch my tone. But unless you go with, like, EOS scaling stuff, you won't have anything for Merlin, so she gets GG'd. Like, we literally saw the ultimate defensive spell, Perfect Cube, the Demon King casually tore through. So, that's an easy GG. Elizabeth gets GG'd. Like, everyone kind of just gets done without Bond. Like, I always knew Bond was a super important character to the narrative. Don't get me wrong. Trust me, I've written multiple videos and talked about Bond a whole ton, but I never realized, like, how fundamentally important he is to the end of the series. Like, I never actually sat down and considered it until I thought of this topic. And even the beginning of the series, without Bond getting rid of that Red Demon, you can't have the plot of Season 1. I'm not even sure how the plot of Season 1 would go. Like, I'm legit not sure. I may have to think about that more in depth. I may write that. But still, that's how unbelievably important Bond is. Because you remove him and so many things can't happen. The end of the series can't happen. The Demon King wins. Presumably, he gets more and more control over Mel's body to the point where... I mean, he may automatically spawn in his prime. Main reason being, the body of Mel would not have any soul to fight him. And there would be no one there to physically contest him in the outside world. So he may just immediately spawn into his prime self. And his prime self, GG's literally every other creature there. Merlin would not be around to revive Chaos, and thusly the Demon King, if he waited around long enough for his sister to be revived. I mean, let's be real, he's probably going to go out of his way to try and prevent it or something. But say he does encounter the Supreme Deity who resurrects, he's literally the hardest counter to her possible. If there's one guy that has darkness magic, it's the Demon King. And he's going to be in his prime, while the Supreme Deity would be at 50%. So even if the Supreme Deity sent a whole bunch of mobs at him, he would just Oko her and leave the Graces around so their power seal remains on Chaos. And then that's a GG. Like, if you really want the Demon King to win, you have to get rid of Bond. Because if you remove Bond, the Demon King gets a easy GG. It'll take a while. And who knows, maybe the specific circumstances that are met can't happen. Because arguably enough, in this timeline, the Ten Commandments may never get released. Because there's no Bond, there's no Red Demon stuff. Hendrickson could never become a Red Demon. He couldn't have the ability to become a Grey Demon probably immediately, meaning he would never release the Ten Commandments, meaning stuff may never even progress. Or at least not in this time. Maybe Meliodas would have to wait for 100 more Elizabeths for something to happen. But even then, I don't know. I just feel like this is like a bad ending. And obviously, it's a bad premise, right? Like, Bond not getting his immortality. Sure, he gave it up at the end, but still, him not having it at all. Pretty darn bad. Don't get me wrong. Pretty darn bad. And with that being the case, I think that's kind of just an overall GG. Like, I don't really see any hope for the series to actually survive without Bond. Which is so good. It shows you how well Nakabe incorporates a lot of his characters. You can remove some... I'll think about that. I may do certain things like, what if Diane failed to allow... I don't know. Now I'm thinking a bit more. However, what do you guys think? Do you think I'm missing something? Do you think the series can somehow live without Bond? Do you think certain scenarios wouldn't happen or would happen depending on whether or not Bond's alive? Please tell me all that and more in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. Use for as low as $1 exclusive videos, early content, and more. You'll also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That with the Pencil, writing off.